All right. Well, welcome everyone. So as an addition to our celebration of the 50th anniversary of Title IX, we are happy to have Nikki Hunter, class of 93 here with us. Nikki participated on both the WPI field hockey teams and the WPI softball teams in her career at WPI, and was actually inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2017. So we're really happy to have you here, Nikki.
All right, thanks, Natalie.
Yeah. Started off with, are there any moments in Title IX history that stick out to you?
You know, it's funny you say that because going to WPI in the early 90s, just for the engineering background or the discipline as it was kind of like that was a big deal too. I think when I was there, it was a 9-to-1 ratio of men to women. And one of the questions that I got asked when I was interviewing for jobs was, what do you think about being a woman in a male-dominated field? And I remember at the time kind of being taken aback by the question because this never occurred to me. My parents were very supportive growing up and could do whatever I wanted to do, and this was what I wanted to do, and I just did it. And so when you look at things like Title IX, for me, it was kind of the same thing. In Little League baseball, as a kid growing up, when you look back on it, I think there was just a handful of girls on the team, and we competed with the boys. And I remember being mad when they were picking the all-star team, and there was one kid on there that was the coach's son, and he's going to get picked or whatever. And I became an alternate, even back then, but at no point did I, naively or not, consider it because I was a girl versus a boy. It was just what I wanted to do, and I did it. So I think at WPI, with the ratio as it was at the time, we had we did not have a lot of people on the bench. I was a goalie for the field hockey team, and was the backup for several years. And there might have been, maybe 2 or 3 other girls on the sidelines with me, just by virtue of the population of what you had to go with. So, look back on it, there's more diversity now. There's more options now than there were. I coach, or I volunteer coach for a high school. And one of the downsides of it is now that there's so many options that everyone's vying for the best athletes, right? Because they get so many choices, which is great. And it makes you think, well, what have I played if, there were other options out there. So I'm glad field hockey was one of them at the time, and softball in the spring as well. So.
Yeah, we've come a long way. I mean, to hear that there weren't many players on the bench is so crazy, because now we have 25 players on our team, and it's a lot. And the ratio at WPI as well, we're very close to 50-50, which is great.
Yes, I did hear that. Yeah, that's great. They've done a great job of recruiting and kind of evening things out a little bit, which is really good and important for the industry.
Absolutely. Well. We'd also like to introduce Sue Tarallo, also class of 93. You were also inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2003. So both Nikki and Sue Tarallo, they had historic seasons, and we are really excited to have them here for this celebration of the 50th anniversary of Title IX. So thank you for being here. We'll just start off with the same question. So are there any moments in Title IX history that stick out to you in your career?
At that time, the ratio at the school was 7-to-1. So there was, a lot of males. And I think that, at that point in time, we had to, even though Title IX was in place, I think that we, had to still compete with getting the better, I guess, field times, I guess, you would say, when we practiced, or in terms of just getting our equipment, locker rooms. So it was still a little bit of a struggle, I think, for women. But I think as the years went on, I think that it became a little easier for women in sports. It was tough, being a woman, you still had to almost prove yourself at that point in time still.
We've talked a little bit about the ratio and how crazy it is that it has improved so much that we're nearly 50-50 now.
Yeah, I think we had 100 females. 700 males. And,
I was kind of equating it to like going to WPI in itself was almost like the Title IX. Going to a school with that type of ratio is similar to sports, varsity sports, in college and high school, and trying to compete that. But if that's what you decided to do, or that's what I decided to do, I didn't really think too much about the fact that it wasn't equal.
Yeah, it was almost normal. I mean, because we faced it even in the classroom. So it was our everyday. And I think that's what makes the women at WPI unique and resilient and strong and okay with having to prove ourselves, like it was just something that we were used to, and I think that, I remember a coach even saying, like we need to, like compete with getting the practice field, and we had to kind of adjust to what football did or, when they were practicing. So it's just something that, I think made us stronger. And, it was even more so rewarding that we had a kicking record, because it was like, here we are, we're competitors and, we deserve that field time and, the equipment, the plush buses.
Yeah, absolutely. Nikki also reflected on a little bit of her time as just a female athlete, like in her youth, and like how maybe things changed from when you were younger and how like leading up to WPI. I just want to kind of go through like a timeline of like your experience as a female athlete from when you started playing sports to your career at WPI.
Well, when I started playing sports, I played street hockey and I was the only female on the team. So I think, right from the get-go, that was just normal. So I started playing street hockey, I think when I was about 7 or 8, played basketball along with field hockey and softball, and then played that throughout my high school, switching from softball to tennis my sophomore year. And then in college played field hockey. I think I did club lacrosse for a year and club rugby for a year. And now I play golf and ice hockey in a women's league.
Yeah, that's great.
And that in itself, I think the playing ice hockey, I play for this South Shore Women's Hockey League. For me to see, even at my age right now, in most, I would say the average age is around 40s, 50s. There's 5 divisions of female teams with like 6 or 7 women teams in each division. So if you think about how many women, mothers, like daughters, former hockey players play in that league, I was astonished at the amount of women that play ice hockey. So it just goes to show you that, women's sports have really grown and, are lifelong.
Yeah, absolutely. I just bought a new pair of turfs and I was like, I'm just a lifelong player. Like it's my last season and I'm going to continue buying gear until I can't play physically anymore. So it's always great to see that there are women's leagues.
Because once you stop, it's harder to start again.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting that because I'm thinking back on in high school or middle school. So I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire. And there weren't a lot of options, there was Little League, there was basketball, but I didn't play basketball in the winter because you needed a ride, like you needed to be able to get there, and it's just not something we could get to. And then in the spring, there was just more opportunities to do that. And when we went to middle school, that's when, you kind of look at I'm sitting here thinking there was cross country and there was field hockey, and I'm having a hard time thinking of other sports that were available to women at the time. And I still can't even believe I did it. In 7th grade, I ran cross country, and I hate running. Like, I did that one season, and I'm like, what is that? I'm just, and so my sister, I have a twin sister, and I have a cousin that was a couple of years older, and some other friends that played field hockey. So in 8th grade, because I had to do something, I played field hockey, but at the time I didn't want to wear a kilt. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll play goalie because I don't want to wear a kilt. Like it's kind of one of the you had to wear. And it kind of became a natural fit for me. And it's really interesting because I don't think I would have. There must have been other fall sports, but I can only think of the two. And I know soccer was just starting. Like if it was just a club sport. It wasn't a varsity sport. And then it kind of morphed into something more as time goes on. And before you got on, Sue, I was saying now as a coach or helping coach, you kind of like, sometimes there's too many sports because it's dilutes the field, right? And you want to have the best athletes on your team, and you're trying to, what's volleyball being a fall sport? That should be a winter sport, like they're just doing volleyball now, and so some of
that's
the kids,
why, yeah, we can't have the former school I used to work at, Millbury. We have a volleyball team. And I had asked if we could have a field hockey team, and they said we wouldn't have enough people, or will dilute or pull from other.
Exactly. Sports. So now I'm like, oh man, because some of the field hockey or people playing volleyball because they don't want to run, which I can appreciate. I might not have played field hockey, so I don't know. It's different.
But I was thinking just this morning, I was watching Channel 5 News, I think, in Brockton. They have a female on their football team, and she scored a touchdown.
Oh, wow.
So it just goes to show you, I just was watching it thinking, wow, we've come a long way. There's now a woman, on the Brockton football team scoring touchdowns. Like, how great is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but it was, I do remember, I do remember it was a little tricky when we went to WPI, and Coach Sotterlin, just having to advocate for us. It seemed like she was always trying to like advocate for us, and for the equality of competing with the wrestling team or the football team that drew probably more fans or whatever. But
yeah. Well, that's a really great question, actually. How did you feel in terms of like support from the WPI community and other people? Like, how did it grow as you guys just became this powerhouse of a team? Did your fan section kind of grow? Do you feel like you were still competing with like football for fans, or like what was the support for field hockey like when you were playing?
Well, we just went to Donna Underwood and I just went to the homecoming game, and she said, wow, I don't remember us having as many fans. It was nice to see the stands, quite full. I think we had, so at the time, and when I was staring across the hill, because they used to sit where the hill is now on the opposite side. And so we used to have our same fans up on the hill, right, Nikki?
Yeah. It was kind of like family and friends that followed the game, because field hockey is sometimes a hard sport to follow, and hard for, especially when we played, there were even more rules. And the whistle was infamous for blowing all the time. Gosh, sorry, I had to turn that off.
Yeah, you wonder how much that impacted it, not people not knowing the rules or what was going on,
right. But
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know as it grew, though. I think we just owned it. That was our team. That's what we were doing. And I don't ever remember a big sense of a big following, or I mean, at the time, I think our last year in '92, soccer, football, and field hockey were all ranked number one at one point. And so that in itself kind of made it something, but field hockey, I don't know how big it really got outside of our nucleus, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was pretty much the same throughout the 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like our fan section has been really great. And, football is always, a big hit on homecoming and such, but it's always awesome to see family and friends and just see the support that we have from alumni as well. So it's great to have that support. So it's also good to hear that it seems like you guys also had a lot of support, but I mean, you never know, like, where we could get to potentially, like with field hockey in the future. I agree that nobody knows the rules. We had a big group of some athletes that came to our game, I think on homecoming, and they were just yelling things. They were like, "Oh, that's a corner kick," and we were like, "We don't have those."
I was standing next to those people, actually.
Yeah, I thought so. It's always fun to have support like that, though. Honestly, I really am curious about if you have any advice to young women looking to become an athlete.
Do it.
Just do it, yeah.
There's just so many life lessons that can come out of being part of it, like for a team. And we had a game the other day that the girls, they played horribly. It was a bad loss, and they kind of started getting mad at each other at the end of the game. And I get there when I can, because I work full time and I'm an hour away from the field. So, but the next day I made a point of leaving work early so I could get to practice for the whole time. And I kind of gave them some tips on, like, some examples of what I have going on in my life right now, like conference calls, or stuff we're doing on projects on I-95 between New Hampshire and Maine, and what we're trying to do there will be one of the first part-time child use intelligent transportation system, like the first in the country, one of the first in the country. And then I had another meeting, and I said, we had a call today and there was 15 people on the line, and there's no way we can succeed alone. Like, every single person on that call brought a unique strength or skill or something to that project that we cannot succeed alone. And so, like field hockey, because that's what we were talking about, field hockey is the ultimate team sport. You cannot win or lose this game by yourself. And to try and bring some life lessons into the sport, and to try and get them to understand that hopefully what they're taking out of being part of this sport is there are life lessons there. And, you have to support one another. You have to lift each other up. That's what you're going to do in life. And it's not just what you're doing on the field hockey field or the softball field or whatever sport you're playing. So I don't know what Sue thinks about this, but when I played obviously in the fall and in the spring, I did better in school in the fall and in the spring than I did in the winter, because it really focused my time, and I just was more focused. So I've got kids now asking, or they're thinking about what they want to do, and I'm like, just do it. Like, life's too short. Like, just do it. That's my advice.
It's great to hear just your advice from that, because I mean, our team right now is 6-6, so it just everything that you just said is just kind of it's so relevant right now to the field hockey team, and it's your experience with doing better in the fall and the spring with your sport is also something that all of our athletes have, felt to be true. So I think that it's really cool to hear that, like, of these universal experiences. Sue, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many instances that I go through that I'm uncomfortable, or I'll say, like, I don't know if I can do this. And then I'll always think back at, like, the hardest practice we've had, or the toughest game mentally, that we had. And it's so true. I think about it, like even just some of the games, the NCAA games, where we would get so excited to be there, and then somehow like we would get there and we wouldn't play our best game, and it just, Nikki, I don't know if you feel the same way. I mean, like coach would say to us, like, you get to the big game and you want to compete. And there were times where we first period, wasn't that great. And we bounced back second, but you can never get that first period back. And I think that just even now playing or competing, or where it's like, if I have to do a presentation in my job, or it's just thinking back to like difficult situations and in uncomfortable situations and saying, like, how did I handle that? Or, I want to rise to this occasion. I don't want to have that regret again. And I think that playing sports just gives you so many opportunities to kind of like test yourself and see how you're going to respond, and see if, you can be that teammate. And like Nikki said, it's not all about you. If you're not getting the playing time, how can you support others? How can you watch and become a better player yourself? How can you learn from others? And I just think that there's no better way to, to prepare for life's instances than to play a sport, because I think it throws a lot of things at you that can be transferable in the future.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I just read this book. It's The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. And I just read excerpts of it. I kind of split it up to kind of bring it into field hockey. And one of the lines I said to him last week was, beginners are many, finishers are few, to try and get them to be like, you can't, like, no matter what you do in life, like, if you're going to start something, you're going to finish it, but don't just finish it, like, give it everything you got. Mm-hmm. And to try and, there's so many things that I just agree 100% with what Sue just said, like, that is transferable. And how many times something's hard. And I go back to a lot of the practices, the cone sprints and and the hills, and you're just kind of thinking, well, you can kind of, I mean, that's the physical part of it, but it's also mental, to kind of push yourself through those difficult things. But
or even conversations, like conversations with the coach or conversations with your teammates. Sometimes there might be difficult conversations where if you're not playing and you're not seeing the playing time, have a conversation with the coach and say, what are you seeing? What can I do? Can you give me any tips? Even just being, having that sense to just have that communication. And not, when I played, I didn't play much my freshman year, and I go back thinking, like, I wish I had a conversation with the coach instead of sometimes harboring that. And then you just get into a situation where you're like, it's not all about me. Like, I'm here to support my team, and the better, and the harder that I try, the harder they're going to try. And so regardless of whether I'm sitting watching and I need to be on a moment's notice, when I come into the game, or whether I'm in the game, So like Nikki said, it is a team effort, and whatever you do has a direct impact on the whole team. And I just think that it's tremendous just to be able to gain those skills while doing something that you love, and helping you to prepare to be a better human being, really.
Yeah. Really.
Yeah, it is so clear that there are so many opportunities presented to you when you become an athlete. So you both are such inspirations to female athletes. So it's really great to hear about those opportunities and like why these women should join sports. There are just so many different reasons. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I do want to just open up sorry.
So sports and career. I mean, if you think of like engineering, think about it, like how women have pioneered through like a male dominated career. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like WPI has clearly progressed, and WPI has just really attempted to close that gap. And I think all of the women in the previous years at WPI have just, like you said, pioneered this 50-50 split. This women maybe are dominating in certain engineering majors now. I believe maybe in biomedical engineering, which is really cool. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just really amazing to hear about just how much WPI has progressed. So yeah, I just wanted to open the floor just to chat a little bit more about Title IX and maybe some experiences that you can reflect on.
I mean, I think Title IX is just given a lot of opportunities. Like I said, when we were younger, there weren't that many opportunities. Now you got to take advantage of what's there, right? As individuals, that's important to do. But there's just more opportunities, more sports to choose from, and you kind of see some of that, equal, like Sue had said before, equal playtime on the big field, and what's the locker rooms and just stuff like that kind of forces it to be a little bit more equitable, not just the sport that brings in the most fans. I just think there's more opportunities there than there were before.
Yeah, like we didn't even have a locker room when we played.
Right.
Well, we did, but in my 4 years at WPI,
do you have a locker room, Natalie?
Yes, we do. We have a really nice locker room. And
I don't even remember a locker room. Like I just went to the field, like from my room to the field. You carry your stuff. I don't even remember. Oh yeah, I brought my stuff. Like the goalie bag went back to my apartment. Stunk up the whole place. So there was no going indoors to go out. Like you went from wherever you lived to the field. So you brought your stuff with you, and that meant you had to change before you got to, change after class and get down there. I don't remember.
Yeah, you changed in a bathroom or something.
Right.
So there are just so many different opportunities, and the support from our fans, alumni, family, all of that is just it's so incredible. And we couldn't have built this program we couldn't have gotten this program to where it is now without the two of you. So I just want to thank you so much for like all of your contributions, and we aspire to have a season like you eventually. Well, I think we've kind of hit the end of the interview. I don't know if you have any final comments before I just like wrap things up.
No, thanks.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Well, Nikki and Sue, thank you once again for joining us in the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the passing of Title IX. And just thank you so much for just being an inspiration to our team and for everything that you do.
Thank you, Natalie. Good luck with the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you so much.